Ready? Let's see.
I think so. I don't know if I'm ever ready for your Here come the awesome dance moves.
Mama, you're the queen of my heart.
I think we need just more AJ lip syncing in our lives.
I have literally been paid to stop singing before.
I don't think I've been paid to stop singing, but I have forced myself to stop singing.
And actually, when I was in elementary school, it wasn't the song Mama. It was the Boyz II Men song Down on Bended Knee. And I had a little elementary school boy get on his knees and sing that song to me.
That's pretty amazing. I can't even go up on like a stage to do karaoke. Like a lot of prep work has to be involved to go and do that.
I've like gotten over. I'm just over it. Like I'm over the fact that I'm terrible, and I just own it. I just own it. I am terrible, and
I love that. We can all be like that though. It's so freeing, right?
Yeah. What's funny is literally, and when I say literally, I am not using it like Kardashian style as an extra word in my sentence. I am saying literally every single person in my family and in Adam's family has musical talent and capabilities, except for myself.
Except for you. You know what? It's a little bit similar over here. So Ben sang in a band through with like his church, like growing up, and then when we were in Chicago, they had a band. He used to laugh at me because I would call it a worship band. I was like, "You're just in a little worship group," and he's like, "No, I'm in a band." Don't downplay it because we sing Christian music.
That's awesome.
And Mavis is back. She was out sick. I like checked in on her this week. I was worried about her after her birthday.
Adam actually toured the very beginning of our marriage. He toured with a band in Australia for 3 months.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And people would say to me, because we were newlyweds and I didn't go with him. So people would say like, how could you let this happen? And I would just look at them like, because I own him? Like, or how could I not let him live out his dreams? Oh, I don't know. It's called love.
Yeah, that's really weird. That's a bizarre thing.
Yeah. But I mean, what people think. Like,
I have a legitimate fear of being forced on stage and like singing. It's this weird though, because I mean, I
do karaoke and I'm going to get you over this fear.
Girl, listen, here's the thing. I love me a mic. You give me a microphone, I will take it and I will never give it back. Put me up on a stage with a microphone and I am in my heyday. But put me up on stage, like my worst nightmare would be at a concert and somehow being pulled up on stage.
Yeah.
And, you know, someone being like, sing it with me, you know, and I'm like, oh, no. I actually once had this dream not that long ago that I was at like an event speaking and they pulled me backstage and they're like, Kim, so listen, the band that was going to come sing before you backed out like just now. And so we're going to need you to go out and sing. And then you're going to leave the stage and you're going to come back out and we're going to introduce you as the speaker. And I was like, I can't sing. And they were so adamant. They were like, no. Of course you can sing. If you can speak, you can sing. And I was like, no, these are lies. These are not true words. I like woke up in a sweat, like, I don't even know. Seriously, she's been in the band for the last 17 years.
Wow, that's awesome. What kind of music, Sarah?
I know. I can sing in front of people. I can speak in front of kids, but speaking in front of adults terrifies me. I've actually heard that a lot.
Sarah, do you play and sing? What kind of music?
Okay, so while she's responding, so we are doing like a Q&A, right?
Yeah. So type in any question. Everything is on the table. Type in any question you have for Kim. I'm gonna like review them while we talk about
I love that you're reviewing them.
Mother's Day. Yeah, that way if there's many because of time, you know. So
Ben, aka Duke Tumbleweed, who was with us last week, was like, "Oh, I'm going to come on with some questions," and I basically stole his computer. I was like, "No."
But he still has a phone.
Yeah, this is a fair point. I have a hunch he's going to make some sort of appearance on here before the night is over.
The fact that you,
by the way, my nostrils
could not still.
My nostrils were still burning hours later. Like I was literally walking around just like rocking in a corner. Like it's going to be okay.
I was literally holding my nose thinking about how painful your nose must feel.
Here's the crazy part. If I could zoom in for you, there are still so many nose hairs that are left behind. I don't even know how, because it feels like it ripped out every hair on my body. But there are still somehow, I mean, I am a hairy, hairy girl.
Do you feel like it was worth it? Like, would you wax your nose hair again? Or would you just stick to like,
I mean, right now I just have a nose hair trimming, like a
tinkle razor for my nose hair that I told you about. I just use that thing.
A razor? How do you not cut your nose?
No, it's so, well, you haven't used the tinkle razor. It's just so.
I'm sorry. What is it called?
The tinkle razor.
Not okay.
People know about the tinkle razor.
No one knows about the tinkle razor because that's a horrible branding name.
It is. I almost said something inappropriate. I stopped myself. It is. I use it for my mustache. I use it for my mustache, and I use it for my eyebrows.
So I had some wax left over from Ben's back. Oh, I have to show you an update on his back. And this morning, Emily's been complaining, my like 13-year-old, my almost 13-year-old's been complaining about her stash. And bless her, she has dark hair like me. And so it comes in fast and furious.
Yeah.
And so I was like, baby, come here. I got some practice on your dad the other night and I can wax your mustache. And she was not a fan. She was like, you had to pull like 3 times before you got it off. And there's so many hairs still left.
Oh my God.
I have tried to tweeze my my nose hairs. That is even more painful. I cry every time. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I would rather wax it.
Did you Sarah's comment? Sarah, I don't
stop it. She glued her butt. Oh, you know what? You onto something like you could literally just have like a tight ass. Just wax them together. Just put some wax right between the butt cheeks and you're good to go.
That's hilarious.
Okay, I want to show you.
Okay, guys, so just send in questions that you have, and we're going to talk about Mother's Day real quick.
You see this?
No. Oh, is that Ben's back?
Y'all. He lifted up his shirt to me and he goes, can you tell how smooth it is right here? Like where you did it, like almost like he was happy. And then I said, oh no. And he was like, what? Because he hadn't actually looked. And I was like, oh, baby, it looks like a 13-year-old pubescent boy's face right now. It's like covered in acne. I think he has like ingrown hairs and like pimples back there because of what I did, y'all.
You opened every single pore.
No, and then I sprayed it with some weird coconut stuff, and then he probably sweat.
Oh, that's true. Or he's allergic to it. Like maybe there's something in it he's allergic to.
I don't know. I don't think he's gonna let me wax his chest anytime soon, though.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
He's a good man.
Bad news.
Good man. Okay, so Mother's Day. Like, what's your tradition? What do you do?
Okay. I know. I want to hear what other people do too. So people are either going to be like, this is the best idea, or this is confirmed. We thought she was a horrible person, and now we know for sure. So either way, like most things in life. So honestly, every Mother's Day for myself, my dream Mother's Day is to not be with my children. I said it. And so this is what happens. When I lived in Chicago, one of my best friends, Julie, and I would head to the outlet malls and we went shopping, just the two of us. No children, no husbands, no one. We literally left our kids every Mother's Day and we were like, thanks. And then we left. And let me tell you, here's why. Here's why I have learned this lesson like the hard way, is because every Mother's Day people do, and I'm sure people watching do this. There is this weird ritual where everyone goes and does brunch for
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
And obviously, this year it's off the table. But like historically, that is like what everyone does. Okay, now let me explain something. You tell me the last time that sitting in some sort of formal setting where you are on display and being full on vulnerably judged by every other mom with your children who don't like what's being served for brunch. One is rolling around on the ground. One is throwing food at their brothers. The other one is saying, you know, I hate you. I wish you weren't my mom. Right? Like, and you're just on public display. And we're like, Happy Mother's Day. You know, like, aren't you glad to be a mom today? And so my thing is like, first of all, I like keeping my children contained and private because then no one truly knows how horrible the show is. And the other piece is I'm like, none of that. I don't even want to do that on like a Friday night. Like, I don't even want to take them out in public. That is not enjoyable to me. So why on a Sunday after I sat in church and I'm like, you know, all centered and, you know, just feeling at peace and at rest, would I then want to just kill that joy by being with my children?
Yep. Well, I told you my mom disowned me like a lot of times growing up. So I'm sure you are not alone in this sentiment.
So, I mean, Ben, even this time he was like, so baby, I'm so sorry that you cannot go and be alone somewhere and go shopping because of our current situation. So you may have to be with your kids on Sunday. And, you know, because here's the other piece of it, right? Is it's like, they're so young, they don't really get what Mother's Day is. You know, I mean, their dad tells them like, hey, make a sweet little card. Don't we love your mom and appreciate her? And they're like, yeah, daddy, you know, and he's like, here's your bowl of ice cream. Thank you for saying what I, you know, told you to say. And then they just go back to being like crazy heathens.
Yeah.
They're not like,
they don't get it.
No, they don't get it. Like they're not suddenly like on their best behavior or, you know, they're just go back to being children with tiny brains. And, and so I'm like, you know, peace out. Yeah.
Well, there's nothing better on Mother's Day than relaxing. I mean, that's how I feel. So that often does not equal caretaking.
Yeah, relaxing and being with your children. Yeah. And also, you know what else it does is I used to have these like high expectations around Mother's Day, like what gift I was going to get and what people were going to do and blah, blah, blah. And then like every year I would just be like crushed. Or actually, can I tell you this? Can I be real honest with you? No. You know actually what I hate about Mother's Day? You know what I hate about Mother's Day?
What?
Is tuning into social media. I cannot do social media on Mother's Day. It is every woman like, I'm so blessed to be a mom, and their children are all like, you know, looking up to her, and or like this fake photo around brunch. I'm just going to say it. I know some of you watching are like, well, that's not my reality, and that's great, but I just don't buy it. I don't believe it. I see all the pictures on Mother's Day and, you know, people being like, look at what my family did for me and gave me. And honestly, it leaves me feeling crappy, right? Because I'm kind of like, well, my family didn't do that. Yeah. And my kids aren't acting like that. And so I honestly do, like, almost more than any other day, I do not go on social media on Mother's Day. I won't do it.
I don't either. Because for a long time, Mother's Day was like really hard for me.
Yes.
So I wouldn't go on for that reason.
Yep.
And now it's just being present. Like it's practicing wherever I am being present, even if I'm not with my kids.
Yeah.
Being present and doing nothing means
Yeah, that's fair.
media.
I know. No, I'm glad you said that. I know. I do. When you're like in like the hustle and bustle of it, it is easy to forget that there are women who are longing to
Yeah.
celebrate.
Yeah. Or grieving, like grieving loss of children, grieving infertility, grieving loss of moms, like moms who have passed. Like any holiday, there's triggers, you know.
Right.
Not for everyone, but for some people there are. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like, you know, with all, if no one has heard about this story, but the Ahmaud Arbery story, like my heart grieves for his mom right now, his whole family. But I mean, with Mother's Day coming up, most certainly like grieves for his mom, and the whole situation makes me grieve, really.
Yeah, I know. It's when I hopped on social media yesterday and I saw someone hashtagging about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, what did I miss? And so I went and looked into it. And yeah, I mean,
February,
the story,
the whole country missed it.
Yeah, it was right. I mean, it was just kind of, you know, it happened back in February and we're just hearing about it now, which speaks volumes about our nation in and of itself.
Especially in this day and age when it is so easy and quick, like to share information. That's
You know, I had my first, I don't know what the right word is, experience, I guess.
Yeah.
With, trying to understand what racism and discrimination looked like in the country without it just being something that we said out loud, you know, like something that you just threw around like, oh, I don't see color.
Right.
Or, you know, just love everyone, right? Kind of these cliche things that we would say.
Right.
And my first encounter with it was when we were fostering and in Chicago.
Yeah.
And and Chicago is obviously a very diverse state. Or city. It's not a state. It feels like a state.
It's not for some. I
mean, just like Texas is its own country, right?
Exactly.
And but anyways, I was out with Quinn actually, and we were at this swim lesson for Grayson. Okay, and it happened to be that kind of where we were in this space. It was all just white moms, white kids.
Yeah.
And so I came in with the mighty Quinn and with our little kiddo Tino. Yeah. And I remember vividly, like we were sitting around this train table.
Yeah.
And Quinn and Tina were both playing with the trains.
Yeah.
Super sweetly. And no one knew that he was with me. I'm sure the assumption was that he was not. You know, that this little white boy was my son, but this black boy must have belonged to someone else. And they were both the same age. They were right at 3. And they were just sitting there playing. And it has literally burned an image in my head of this woman who was sitting right there because her little boy was playing with both of mine. I mean, when you're in that situation, they are your babies until they still feel like my babies, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there and she would smile at Quinn and she'd smile at him and look at her little boy and look over at me and smile, you know, and then her gaze would go over to Tino and it would just drop and like questioning.
Yeah.
And like waiting for his next move. And when Quinn would kind of like roughhouse or steal a train, it was just kind of easily forgiven. When Tino would, it was, hey, he was playing with that. There was such a marked contrast that I don't know would have been so raw if she had known that they were both with me.
Yeah.
And I literally just, it was a combination. I was furious.
Yeah.
I was heartbroken. I remember actually leaving and immediately calling my friend Nicole and saying, we need to have a conversation about this because I just experienced what you must experience every day.
Right.
And I got to understand it more because in my brain, it was one of those, oh, okay, I guess it exists. Does it exist as much as we're saying it does? And then to literally see it in front of me was this horrific visual of like, we're in like, this is the year 2017, you know, like how is this? It doesn't make sense to me. So as much as I can empathize and have compassion,
Yeah.
I know that I can never fully sit in that seat.
Right. Right.
But we got to figure out how to get as close to that seat as we can to understand it and empathize and experience. And
because we know that from God's perspective, like we are all God's children. Like there is, you know, the value of his life compared to my life is no more valuable than Ahmad's. Like
100%.
It's priceless. And our little Eli is biracial, and it's a terrifying, it's like a righteous anger burns up in you. And it's also like incredibly terrifying at the same time. And to think about like the types of conversations we will need to have in the future. I mean, he's too young right now, but the types of conversations we need to have, like that's tough. That's really tough. Like those, I think it was Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere. Let me get this right. Injustice anywhere threatens justice everywhere. We are supposed to care. Like we're supposed to, speak up and not be silent. God doesn't ever tell us to be silent when it comes to justice. He tells us to be silent. It's sad. It's very, very sad.
It is. It's on obviously a lot of levels. And it continues from that moment to give me a different perspective of just really what kind of world that we do still live in. That it is easy. It's very easy for me to hunker down, into my white privileged place.
Right.
And to be able to, even though we don't live, as you know, in Colorado, I mean, the diversity here is completely contrasting. Obviously to what I had in Chicago, which was hard to leave behind. And so it's how do you still stay present in that? And how does your heart still stay broken in a way that is still, like you said, seeks justice. And it's I don't know, it's sad. I'm still processing, as you can tell. Like I think
it's too, when I think of like how in counseling, so I don't know if you know this, I have a master's in counseling, and in counseling
that's a whole other episode. I can only imagine what kind of diagnoses you've given me.
No. The next episodes. AJ counsels Kim. No, just kidding.
No.
Not happening.
I'm going to get my real life therapist on here too. I bet she could have some doozies.
She actually knows what she's doing. But they teach us like someone's pain is pain to the person experiencing pain. So like, I may look at someone's pain and it's very easy for me to think like, oh, that's not that bad. But it's not my pain. To the degree that someone experiences that grief or whatever tragedy or trauma they're experiencing, it is not my place to say you should get over it, or you shouldn't feel it this strong, or it shouldn't affect you this much. That's not my place to say. I think it's similar when it comes to different cultures and different races. When when our brothers and sisters in Black culture experience something that is racism, it is not my place to say or to feel like, oh, it's not that bad, or I'm just going to duck my head. Like, it's our job to feel the pain that they feel, not discredit the pain they feel or gloss over the pain they feel. And it's okay for us to feel or experience different things. Like what you experienced with Tino is still like painful and hurtful, but it's a different kind of pain than like if Tino were older that he would experience.
Absolutely.
I'm sure as he's grown up, like those things still impact him. And I'm sure he still experiences, you know, looks like that and comments and gazes and
right.
It's,
you know,
sad.
there was, to contrast that with just the sweetness of how much my kids adored him.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was just a sweet boy. Yeah. He was their little brother, you know, and and just how, you know, they truly, they acknowledged and saw that he was a different color, but yet he was the same as them.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. Like there are so many times, even now, I'm starting to tear up where our other son, Ari, he knows, like, no different. You know, Eli is his brother. That's it. And they're both two, for anyone who doesn't know, both of our sons are adopted. They're both so young right now that we've tried to start the conversation and talk about like their birth moms and talk about how wonderful they are. And we've started that, but they don't really like comprehend it yet.
Yeah.
But Ari looks at Eli like there is no difference. And it reminds me when God tells us to be like little children, I think of it like that, like where we love each other regardless of these like superficial things.
Right.
And honestly, they're not even superficial in my opinion. They're the way God created us.
Absolutely.
So maybe, you know, surface, but not superficial. That was the wrong word, but.
Yeah, we asked someone, Sarah's asking how long we fostered him for. So we had him, we had lots of kiddos kind of come in and out of our home, and he was with us a couple of different times. And because they try to place, like if they do go back home and they have to come back, they try to place them with the same family. And so we had him, gosh, I'm trying to remember, probably for 2 or 3 months each time. And he was a sweet one. I've got a lot of good stories for all those.
Where his birth mom recently reached back out to you?
Yeah. That was not him.
Okay.
No. Yeah. He came to us when he was 3, and I did not realize, I mean, I don't even know. It was too much testosterone in one house. It was like, I quickly learned my lesson of like having 2 boys, especially that are the same age.
Yeah.
That are like, it's like literally like a pissing contest, you know? I mean, they were like, who is in charge? Who owns this domain? What is going on?
Yes.
And but there are a lot of fun stories in there. Like the time that someone brought scabies into our house. That was a fun one.
Oh,
scabies before?
Yes.
You will know it when you see it.
My sister-in-law has had it, and
yeah,
she got it at some hotel on a missions trip.
Oh my gosh. I mean, when you're stripping everyone down and like rubbing cream on them to like preventatively keep the worms away.
We still joke about it to this day because we had a family vacation plan with my husband's entire side of the family, and we decided we were all still going, and we left her at home.
No, you didn't.
Yes, we did.
You're like, you are infected. You stay put.
Family church friend took care of her. So we still joke about it today that like we were willing to give up the family trip
Oh my gosh. Sisterly love.
It is love. It is love.
Susan is asking how old your kiddos are. They're 2 and 4, right? Did I get that right?
Yeah, Eli will be 3 in July. Yeah,
And
they're like 15 months apart.
Yeah, because he just turned 4.
Yeah, Ari just turned 4. Eli's about to turn 3. Yeah.
So in honor of Mother's Day too, this kind of sharing about the fostering thing, it reminds me, there's like just those certain the movie Inside Out. Did you ever watch that?
Oh yeah, I finally did because it came from that sermon, and then
so many tears in that movie.
But
it talks about like these permanent memories, these long-term memories. I don't know what they call them in the movie, but anyways, but this was like a marked one for me. So we were at foster care training.
Yeah.
And this woman, and we rolled in late because this is what we do. And but I got there in time for this woman to say these words that I've never forgotten. And she said, there is going to be a moment where you have to take that baby, that child back home. Because that is the goal, is that they do reunite. And you are going to have a moment, and it's likely going to be with all of them, where you pull up to their house and you say to yourself, I could do this better. And I vividly remember the very first time, and Tino was our first little guy. And I remember the very first time that I drove, like 45 minutes away to his house, and I pulled up front, and I knew what I was walking him back into. I couldn't fool myself. Like I knew what was happening.
Yeah.
And I remember walking up to that door, knocking on the door, and it was a very quick goodbye.
Yeah.
And giving him a hug and having to turn around. This is going to make me cry. Having to turn around and walk back to my car. And I literally drove about 3 streets away, and then I just had to pull over the car, and I just started sobbing. Yeah. And her words came to my mind of, you are going to have that moment where you pull up and you think, I could do this better. Why, God, am I returning this baby back to this place? And she said, in that moment, and this is what I want moms to hear who are listening, or honestly, whether you're a mom or not, this is what I want you to hear. Yeah. She said, in that moment, I want you to remember that all we need those moms to be is good enough. That's it. Just good enough. And, I would always remind myself of that every time I had to say that hard goodbye and send them back and long to see them again. But also if I saw them again, I knew what that meant. And I had to remind myself, like, all we're aiming for is good enough. And that's not just specific for them. It's for all of us, whether you're a mom, whether you're not a mom and you're longing for that, whether you are, a daughter or a wife or single, like whoever you are, that literally all we have to be is good enough. That's it. And we're not striving for greatness.
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful things when we are in relationship with Christ and we accept the gift he's given us, we are good enough.
Yeah.
We don't even have to try to be that anymore. Like, because of him, we are. I think that's one of the hardest things maybe for, especially in motherhood.
Yeah.
To like sit in is to know that like I feel like a failure as a mom so much, but really like Christ has covered all my mistakes and all my failings, and I am good enough for him. Like, he already approves of me. I don't need to earn his approval. Like, I need to constantly repent, and like it, in Jenny Allen's, that Bible study Stuck, she talks about sometimes I think we're made to live in that tension of constantly needing him, because that, that keeps us humble and constantly like at his feet, which is where we should be, you know. And I think essentially when we think that we could do it better, that is our pride,
Mm.
you know. That's our pride.
Yeah. 100%. I love kind of the imagery of, that while my good enough may be over here,
Mhm.
God's perfection is always, over here. And he's going to fill in that gap, however small or however big that is. And on
Yeah.
most days, it's real big, especially
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not, I don't have to be
Yeah.
that, because I will never be that. And so
Yeah.
he's got all that difference covered, whatever I can bring today, which I hope does give women listening just some grace to, that,
Yeah.
we have days where we ended and we're like, I feel like I was killing it today. Like I was on top of it. I met their every need and whatever. And then you wake up the next day and, right, we say it all the time. We're just like, today was a rough day. Like it was a bad day. And we have these like ratings for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just kind of being like, you know what? I showed up today.
Yeah.
I showed up today and I showed up with what I could, and
Yep.
and that was enough.
Yep.
That was exactly enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I own the things I know need to change, but I like accept his grace and move on,
Yeah.
like, I, as an achiever, like just personality wise, I really struggle with, like striving and having to
Mm-hmm.
accept that, grace. And I constantly have to remind myself that like I don't need to strive to prove myself. I want to strive because of what he's done.
Yeah.
Not to prove myself or earn his love or earn my husband's love or earn my children's love. I mean, essentially we are stewards of them, their gifts, and they're not ours anyways. They're still his kids, not, they're God's kids. So I'm stewarding that opportunity, and I want to do it because of him, not to prove it,
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I always love the perspective of that he uses us not in spite of our weaknesses or shortcomings, but because of those.
Yeah.
And I think that just slight difference in words,
Yeah.
when we say things like, even though I am, or even though I did, or like, that's just not even, there is no even though. It is because you are. And because you did, that is why you are so perfectly suited for this role, for this role of motherhood or this calling, or
because God did.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. Guys, we went off the trail. Sorry.
I know. But so I can't believe no one had any hard questions.
I know. So here's what I'm going to do.
Anything before we
I'm coming with hard questions next week. If nobody else is going to throw them out, I'm going to put them to the test.
I have watched Instant Family, and it does make me cry every time too.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I let my kid live another day.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I know. Grayson every night, it's super sweet. Right before he goes to sleep, as I'm like leaving the room, he'll say, good night, Mom. See you in the morning. And for me, it's like always such a reminder of, kind of along the lines of what Jennifer said. Like, just, you know what? I showed up another day.
Yeah.
Showed up. See you in the morning. You know what? I will see you in the morning.
Yeah.
And that may be all I have to give you tomorrow, is that I showed back up and I was here in the morning.
New mercies every morning.
Every day.
New mercies every day.
Every day.
Guys, thank you for joining us tonight. And we wish all of you a very, very happy, really restful Mother's Day.
Absolutely. We truly do hope that you guys feel spoiled rotten, even if you have to create your own spoiled rotten. But we do. I hope that you know, even if no one else tells you on Sunday and they muck the whole thing up, that you may know that you are so loved and so adored, and you are doing an incredible job, even on the days that you feel like anyone else could do it better. So, yeah, have a amazing Mother's Day, and we will and stay off social media on Mother's Day. That's my pro tip.
Do whatever you can to get alone time. Go take that bath. Lord
Yeah.
knows I'm taking more baths than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, my skin is wrinkly and rotten. Before. All right, ladies. Love you all. Mwah. Good night.